Have you ever just gone about your day and felt like, I don't know, like your brain is tuned to a completely different frequency? Like you're picking up on some invisible broadcast that the rest of the world is just totally oblivious to? Well, welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving into a really fascinating analysis from PsychVeda to answer a pretty profound question. Do you actually possess what's known as a rare mind? And look, we're not talking about IQ scores or standard academic tests here. Nope, we're taking a deep dive into the actual mechanics of how you process the world around you. We're going to break down 6 highly specific and honestly often misunderstood signs that your psychology operates on a completely different, much rarer level than the average person.
So, first up, do you often feel just absolutely mentally exhausted in crowds? And to be clear, we aren't just talking about being a little bit shy. Psychoveda points out this really distinct phenomenon. When you're in a crowded room, or you've been surrounded by people for an extended period, it's not just mildly uncomfortable for you, it is deeply, physically, and mentally draining. It's like your social battery doesn't just slowly tick down, it literally plummets off a cliff. You know, you might have spent your entire life thinking this just makes you awkward or antisocial. But in this analysis, we're going to reframe that completely. This exhaustion, it's not a flaw. The research actually suggests it's a symptom of just how deeply your mind is processing every single tiny stimulus in that room.
Which leads us to, honestly, kind of the core tragedy of having a rare mind. Most people who have one have absolutely no idea it's even there. I mean, think about it. Because society operates on this standard default frequency, anyone operating on a different one just assumes their radio is broken, right? You've probably internalized these signs as negative quirks, but according to the source material, these traits don't make you strange at all. They make you exceptional. You simply haven't had the blueprint to understand your own unique psychology, well, until right now.
To really wrap our heads around this, we're going to divide our analysis into 2 distinct phases. First, we'll look at the inner world, how your mind operates in private, and the actual mechanics of your solitary thoughts. And then, we'll explore the outer world, how this complex internal engine navigates a loud, chaotic, external social landscape.
Okay, let's start off with that inner world. The very first major distinction here is how you process reality itself. The psychology highlighted in the source tells us that the average mind is built for pure efficiency. It engages in surface-level thinking, accepting the obvious answer and just moving on. But a rare mind, it's fundamentally incapable of doing that. Instead, you engage in deep-level thinking. You are constantly peering beneath the floorboards of reality. When someone tells you something, you aren't just hearing the words they say. You're analyzing their tone, the context, the hidden motivations behind it. And actually, this is exactly why crowds drain you so fast. Your brain is involuntarily deep processing this massive avalanche of surface-level noise.
So, what exactly happens when you strip away all that external noise? Well, Psychoveda offers this amazing insight. When you are finally alone, your mind suddenly becomes active and your best ideas emerge. You see, your need for solitude isn't about hiding away from the world, not at all. Solitude is actually the required operating environment for your highest cognitive functions to kick in. When the exhaustion of the crowd finally fades away, your brain gets the bandwidth it needs to boot up its most powerful software. That alone time is an empty time. It is hands down your most intensely productive and creative space.
And this naturally builds into the second sign, your relentless pursuit of depth. For the average mind, the journey pretty much stops at step 1, right? Finding out the what. But for you, that is literally just the starting line. Your brain immediately, almost automatically, demands step 2, understanding the why, and then it jumps right to step 3, figuring out how the whole thing actually works. The analysis notes that while this habit of constantly overanalyzing everything can sometimes feel a little maddening, it's precisely this unrelenting curiosity that separates you from the crowd. You just flat out refuse to accept the world without understanding the mechanics behind it.
Which brings us to the third sign of your inner world. And oh man, this is where society really starts to get you wrong. You might have actually been labeled lazy throughout your life just because you hesitate to jump into tasks right away. You don't just blindly start doing what you're told. But the reality? It isn't laziness at all. It's extreme selectivity. Before you commit a single ounce of your energy, your deep thinking mind steps back and asks, is this actually worth doing? Does this even make sense? You completely refuse to engage in blind action. You're just preserving your precious cognitive energy for the things that actually matter.
So just to recap real quick, your inner world is essentially defined by these 3 pillars. You crave solitude as a sort of cognitive sanctuary, you are a deep and relentless thinker, and you are selectively active. That right there is the engine of a rare mind.
All right, now that we've mapped out this super complex, highly selective internal engine, we really have to ask the big question. What happens when you take this mind and force it to interact with the rest of society? We are transitioning now to navigating the external social world. We're going to shift our focus outward and look at the final 3 signs that dictate how this unique mental wiring handles everyday life. Because, as you can probably guess, when a deep thinking mind meets a very surface-level society, sparks are inevitably going to fly. So, the 4th sign is a direct result of applying all that deep processing power to human beings. You possess this hyper-tuned people-reading ability. You instantly spot what's fake versus recognizing what's genuine. While other people might be totally fooled by a charming smile or some really smooth words, your brain is quietly in the background analyzing microexpressions, inconsistencies, and just the underlying energy of the interaction. You literally feel it in your gut when someone isn't being real with you. And honestly, this perfectly explains why you keep your inner circle so small. You simply cannot and will not force a connection with someone your radar has already flagged as inauthentic.
Moving on to sign number 5. This one looks at what actually drives your actions out in the world. Think about it. The average mind is heavily driven by following trends, wanting what everyone else wants, blending in with the crowd. But a rare mind, it is intrinsically motivated. You are fiercely independent in your interests. Just because everybody else is doing something doesn't make it appealing to you. Actually, if anything, it kind of makes it less interesting, right? Instead of following the trends, you follow your own unique, highly specific curiosities. You're out there blazing your own trail simply because the paved road is just too boring for you.
And this brings us to the 6th and arguably the most powerful sign of all. It is the ultimate indicator of mental strength. When chaos hits, the average person tends to react impulsively and emotionally, but not you. First, you observe the situation quietly. Second, you control your emotional reaction, keeping that internal engine nice and cool. And finally, third, you respond strategically. This incredible emotional control, this ability to just pause and analyze while everyone else around you is panicking, it gives you an immense tactical advantage in life.
Okay, so we've walked through all 6 signs: craving solitude, deep thinking, selective action, hyper-tuned people reading, independent interests, and strategic emotional control. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, well, I don't do all of these perfectly all the time. But here is the good news. You don't have to. The Psychoveda analysis reveals a really clear diagnostic threshold. Possessing even just 3 or 4 of these traits strongly indicates that you operate with a remarkably rare mind.
Which brings us to the ultimate question we want to leave you with today. Exactly how many of these 6 traits do you possess? I want you to take a moment today to really audit your own mind. If you spent a good chunk of your life feeling like an outsider because you overthink things, or because you just desperately need to be alone sometimes, or because you absolutely cannot stand fake people, it is time to stop seeing those things as weaknesses. They aren't. It is the signature of a higher frequency. So embrace your unique mental wiring. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and whatever you do, keep exploring that absolutely incredible mind of yours.